Coming up on this week's news, MK has urgently recalled 37 versions of its Essentials double socket range over a high risk of fire. A contractor is fined £100,000 after a solar panel installer falls through a skylight. And it's revealed that 80% of electricians have had electric shocks despite all the safety procedures. Welcome to Electrical News Weekly in association with Solar Trade Sales, your easy one-stop shop for all things solar. Make sure you click the link in the show notes to access their online store. Whether you're listening in the van, on-site or down at the wholesale counter, I'm Joe Robinson and I've been through the best of the electrical industry news to save you the trouble. And this week's challenge word competition is supported by the good people at Brady. If you need a label, they've got a printer and so much more. If you think you've spotted the 2 words I've been challenged to slip into this week's show, comment with them below for the chance to win a prize. And while you're there, click the link to check out the Brady range of printers. The respected British accessories brand MK has urgently recalled some 37 versions of its Essentials double socket range over what's being termed a high risk of fire. It's been revealed that when the switch on the socket is being switched on, switched off, or while it's under load, there is a possibility for an arc flash to occur. This could cause the socket and surrounding materials to ignite. The government's Office for Product Safety and Standards have recorded the risk level as high. Local authority trading standards officials were first to raise the alert about the products which are made in China. It appears the affected sockets do not meet the requirements of the Electrical Equipment Safety Regulations of 2016 or the Plugs and Sockets Safety Regulations of 1994. The affected models are all 13-amp 2-gang sockets in the Essentials range. They include both single and double pole versions and the single pole switch socket with neon light and the option with an integral USB port. They were on sale to electricians from 2018 to July 2024. MK says the products have now been withdrawn from the market. I've put a link to the full 37 product codes in the show notes. In other news, a renewables contractor has been fined £100,000 after a solar panel installer fell 10 metres through a skylight and sustained serious injuries. Nicholas Villela had been fixing a photovoltaic panel into position on the roof of the Greystone Action Sports skate park in Salford, Greater Manchester, when the accident happened. He took a step backwards onto a fragile skylight and then plunged down to the skate park below, narrowly missing several people. His horrific injuries include a partial lung collapse, broken ribs, pelvis, femur and left wrist, as well as fractures to his lower vertebrae. He spent a month in hospital. H2O Renewables Limited were the principal contractor on the job, and it had engaged Green Projects Limited as subcontractor to fit the roof-mounted system. H2O planned the work, during which time they were aware of multiple fragile roof lights near to where the solar panels would be fitted. Its risk assessment stated that cones and warning tape would be used to warn workers of the risk of falling through the roof lights. Additionally, fixed scaffolding would be used to prevent falls from the perimeter of the roof. A health and safety probe found that by the time the work started in November 2022, the fixed scaffold had only partially been erected and only cones had been placed next to the skylights. Despite these insufficient measures, Green Projects Limited's operatives were allowed to start work to fit the solar panels. The investigation concluded that H2O Renewables Limited and Green Projects Limited had failed to take suitable and sufficient precautions to ensure the safety of workers on the roof. H2O Renewables Limited of Hazel Grove, Stockport pleaded guilty to breaching the Construction Design and Management Regulations of 2015. They were fined £106,000 and ordered to pay almost £5,000 costs at a hearing at Manchester Magistrates Court. Green Projects Limited of Albert Street, Oldham pleaded guilty to breaching the Work at Height Regulations 2005 and were fined £13,340 and ordered to pay £1,600 in costs. Over in Wales, the recent storm Darragh has devastated the UK's biggest solar farm. High winds blew hundreds of panels off their mountings at the giant 190-acre Porthwen solar farm in Anglesey. The installation was only completed 2 years ago. The site is owned by French energy firm EDF Energy and powers up to 9,500 households. It now needs significant repairs, says assessors. Elsewhere in Anglesey, the wind was so strong that blades were sheared off a wind turbine, which then reportedly caught fire. That's all going to take a bit of work to manhandle back into shape. There's more sobering news for the solar sector in a scientific study released this week, which shows that panels can accelerate the spread of fire on sloping roofs. The effect depends on the gap distance between the roof surface and the module and the size of the ignition source. The scientists did a lot of experiments which showed that a self-propagating fire can be achieved if the ignition source is big enough. The buoyant plume spreads the fire mostly up the roof surface and to a limited degree laterally. The fire spread was also seen down the roof in the burning melted roof membrane. None of the experiments caused the fire to spread into the roof construction. I've popped a link to the detailed research in the show notes. Meanwhile, a fire risk assessment of home battery packs by German scientists have rated the chance of a blaze at just 0.0049%. Researchers at the RWTH Aachen University say they only took into account cases in which the fire in the house was actually triggered by the battery storage system itself, not by the battery management system or human error. They also found that the fires are increasingly taking place in the spring. This is most likely a reaction that occurs when the storage systems begin to be used again after the winter. Most of the fires occur between noon and 4 p.m. when the memory is fully loaded. In EV news, it's been revealed that Europe's biggest charging location is set to be at the Trafford Centre in Manchester. A planning application to turn a former petrol station on the site into an EV station has been submitted to the centre's planning team. The development will deliver an ultra-rapid charging hub, a supercharger lounge and a further 47 250 kilowatt ultra-fast chargers. That would take the total at the centre to 65, which could make it the largest ultra-rapid charging hub in Europe. If it's approved, work is set to begin in early 2025. EV chargers in petrol stations are becoming a contentious issue in the trade. Just this week, a petrol industry trade association warned that a loophole in the law is allowing chargers to be put in dangerous locations on forecourts. Because operators don't have to notify any authorities when they add chargers, it means a non-compliant scheme could be in operation for years until a petrol enforcement team visits the site. Only at this point will operators be asked to rectify the situation. Jamie Thompson, chairman of the Association for Petrol and Explosives Administration's Technical Committee, said that the existing law does not recognise the installation of electric chargers as a material change to a petrol station. He said the current situation is a possible danger to the public. Thompson also said that installers of plug-in points sometimes don't take into account temporary hazards such as petrol tankers being too close to the charge points, the cable, or the car being charged. Another problem is that an isolator unit is often not installed on the forecourt or inside the shop for fire services to turn off the equipment in the event of an accident. Now, it's been revealed that 8 in 10 electricians in Northern Ireland have suffered electric shocks on the job. The groundbreaking report by the Electrical Training Trust has revealed what the organisation terms a culture of shock silence. The survey, which interviewed some 350 electrical workers in the province, also showed that some 40% have had at least 3 shocks in their careers to date. Of those who've experienced a shock, 89% sustained an injury and almost all required time off work. And despite the frequency of the shock incidents, almost 3/4 were not reported to employers. A key finding is the failure of electricians in Northern Ireland to carry out safe isolation procedures using lock-off kits. The document said that company culture, ineffective reporting procedures and time pressures are the 3 most common reasons staff failed to report an electric shock at work. The organisation's Charlotte Bamber said the findings should serve as a wake-up call to the electrical industry. eFix has produced lots of info and educational videos on safe isolation, including a full CPD. I highly recommend that you take a look at that. The links, as always, are in the show notes. Finally, in product news this week, the big story is a breakthrough in battery technology. This looks set to result in more powerful, longer-lasting power tools. Battery giant Ampace has found a clever way to reduce the internal resistance of a cell, which in turn cuts the temperature rise during discharge. The result is the JP30, a battery which can deliver a stonking 36 amps for 5 minutes without cutting out. That's twice the current capability. The company has also managed to increase the power density from an industry standard 1000 watts per kilogram to 2100 watts. The innovation should feed through into tools in the coming years, and we can't wait to see those. Before we go, a shout out to the constellation of stars that make up Level 3 nighttime adult pupils at Preston College in Lancashire. Maintenance engineer Damien Cross got in touch to tell us that the students watch the news each week and have all benefited from our educational videos. Thanks for the feedback, Damien, and all the best to you and all your colleagues in your studies. If you'd like a name check on the eFix News Weekly, get in touch via our contacts in the show notes or in the comments below. And our usual reminder that we're in the market for your stories, your projects and your recommendations, as we'd like to share them with the wider eFix community. Send us pictures of your installs or let us know if you've come across any new kit that's making your job easier. Now, just before we get to your favourite bit of the show where I reveal last week's challenge words and winners, we want to thank our premium partners. We couldn't make the news without you. First up, it's the people who've created the Swiss Army knife of solar inverters, along with all-weather batteries, very much the Boy Scouts of the solar industry. It's sink. The best thing to come out of Yorkshire since stainless steel, the home of EV Ultra and other groundbreaking and quality products, it's Doncaster Cables, with an incredible range of equipment from EV charge points through industrial sockets and switches to kit for explosive areas. Plus, they supplied gear for a Campari factory, so they'll always have a place in my heart. It's Scarmy. Big thanks to you all. We really appreciate your ongoing support for the news. If you think you know the words that I've smuggled into this week's show, pop your guess into the comments. We'll take all the correct guesses and select one at random to be the winner of an eFix goodie bag prize. Answers submitted after 5 o'clock on the Wednesday after release will not be entered into the draw. Now let's reveal the winners of last week's challenge word competition, as sponsored by Brady. Remember, if you need a label, they've got a printer and so much more. Click the link in the description to view their incredible range. Last week's words were brain rot and brat, and the first name to come out of our electronic hat was Martin E63. So very well done to you, Martin. Click the link in the show notes to claim your prize. Thanks for listening to this episode of Electrical News Weekly in association with Solar Trade Sales, your easy one-stop shop for all things solar. Remember to click the link in the show notes to check out their online shop. Make sure you subscribe to receive the next update. Thanks for listening, and until next time, have a great week. Stay safe out there, and remember, there's no such thing as a torque calibrated arm.